Here are 15 of the best Ask Reddit stories for today. I hope you enjoy and remember to subscribe. It really helps us out. We post new videos every day.
What is the worst thing about being skinny? Lap isn't as comfy for dog to sit on. It's so easy to hit your pelvic bone on the side into things, and it hurts too much. Sometimes even just sitting hurts because there's not enough fat to cushion the bones and they press directly on the nerves. You cannot do a very splashy cannonball into the pool. What is the weirdest thing someone has told you in confidence? He liked to strip Barbie dolls naked, dip them in the bath, and suck the water off their tatas. This was when we were in 3rd grade together, and it was the second thing he told me after his name. That he put random objects from around his room up his wagon when he was horny. When I was in school, a guy flat out told me that every time he saw me, he wanted to bite me, not sure what to make of it. That they lost a tampon inside themselves weeks earlier and if I could help them look for it. I started a new job and the lady at the desk next to me was this nice, older Christian lady, and she just sort of told me out of the blue that she had had surgery on her labia to look better because it was ugly. I didn't really know how to respond to that. Men of Reddit, what shouldn't men be judged for doing? Showing emotion, or not showing emotion? We should get to choose how we feel. Being short, literally no one has control over their height. Judge people for the things they can control. Complimenting another man. Taking the sudden wide step to free our balls from sticking to our thigh. Crying. The happiness to see her wheels.
I'm gonna do it. I know. Don't. No, that's helping too much. That's helping way too much. Way too much. Way too much. Nope. No biting. No biting. Okay. So, first of all, come on. We have to get her to cooperate. We're gonna pick up her back ends. And put her legs. Okay. Okay. No. Alright, got him in, and then we just pick up this part, click it in, and then we're going to strap her front. This is where she gets impatient. We got to put her feet in. This keeps her feet from dragging, and then she's ready to go. Yeah!
When I was in high school, I purposely got my girlfriend, now wife, pregnant. We were 17 and in love when our son was born. We had practiced safe sex and she was on birth control and we used condoms. I quit school to work at the steel mill with my dad and provide for my family. At 18 I asked her to marry me and she said yes, and we've been together ever since, 12 years ago now, and have 3 children together. But what she didn't know until recently is that I poked a hole in the condom. She was the most beautiful girl I'd ever met and I wanted to be with her forever, and in my fucked up teenage head poking a hole in the condom was the way to ensure she'd be in my life forever. Years later I realized how poopy that was, especially since it worked, so I told her the truth. She laughed and said, I wasn't ever on birth control. I lied. Then we both laughed. I guess we trapped each other and we're both poopy people. God, I love her. What is something ancient that only an internet veteran can remember? Slowly watching the image you wanted to see load one line at a time. When screensavers were actually a thing, flying toasters et al., and it wasn't just another word for wallpaper. Browser software on 3.5-inch floppy disks taped to front of PC magazines. You've got mail. Peanut butter jelly time.
Security.
Should just go away. Every time I read an article about Ezra Miller, it sounds like some of the most crackhead stuff ever. Caitlyn Jenner, people forget that she unalived someone in 2015. Vehicular manslaughter, unalived 1 and injured 7. She's praised as a hero. It seems this barely even tarnished her reputation. Dr. Phil. Ever since I saw him treat the girl that didn't want to see her biological mother like that, I'm convinced he has some sort of god complex and a bit of an a-hole. Today I messed up by accidentally peeing in my sneaky link's mouth. Let me preface by saying I've always had a weak bladder since I was young, and lately whenever I cough, sneeze, or gag I pee a little. It's usually only ever a little squirt, but it is bothersome. I've gone to the doctor about it and they can't find a problem and just suggested I do exercises. That being said, last night I, 22 female, was hooking up with my sneaky link, 32 male. After switching through all different types of positions he asked to 69, so we started getting to it. It was going great until I gagged a little too hard and let out a little squirt right into his mouth. I immediately got off horrified and was ready to just get dressed and leave out of embarrassment. He immediately wiped his mouth and then asked if I was good. I'm still not 100% sure if he actually knows what happened or if he's just a trooper and it didn't bother him, but after that I told him I didn't want to do that position anymore and we just continued on like nothing happened and the rest of the time was great. TLDR, I was 69 with a guy I hook up with and gagged a little too hard and peed a little in his mouth. He didn't seem bothered by it, but I'm very embarrassed.
How do you subtly F with people? In high school computer lab I would always quickly turn off my computer monitor when my teacher would come around the corner and go oh shit. And he would make me turn it back on to see what I was doing and it would always just be the spreadsheet or whatever it was I was working on and he would demand to know what I was doing that I had to hide. This went on for weeks and then one day while at the computer I see out of my peripherals this little Asian man, my teacher, slowly sneaking up beside my desk on his hands and knees trying to get a look at my screen. All I could see was the top of his head. My mom was doing the toothpaste tube roll-up thing and was amazed at how long the tube was lasting. What she didn't know was that my dad was constantly squeezing more toothpaste into it just to F with her. They are in their 70s. When someone is a close talker, I like to take small steps backwards to see how far across the room I can get them to walk. What's the biggest plot twist you've seen in real life? During the last year of my grandfather's life he had dementia and was having trouble keeping track of reality. Before he was placed into hospice he kept complaining about a man that was in his house. He would say that he would come around at night and that he was taking his things and using his stuff. Grandma of course kept reassuring him that she was the only one there. His doctor increased his medications because he was losing touch with reality so badly. Fast forward to my grandfather's funeral and a man showed up that wasn't known by more than a few people in the family. Turns out he was an old friend of my grandmother's who showed up to give his support. In a small town like that it wasn't exactly an unusual thing to have random people show up to the funeral home who knew the person at some point. Well, about a year later my grandmother let slip that she is seeing someone, the guy from funeral. At this point nothing too odd. They got to talking at church and we thought it was sweet. Then a bit later sweet innocent old grandma mentions that it's their 3rd anniversary. Grandpa died 2 years prior. This man was the person that Grandpa saw in his house every night. He was the reason that everyone thought Grandpa was going crazy. He was the reason that my grandfather was medicated to the point of being a vegetable for the last horrible year of his life. Teachers, what is the most NSFW thing have you done in your classroom? Okay, I'm not proud of this, but here we go. It was my first year teaching high school English to a bunch of thugs. I was only a few years older than some of them. Near the end of class 2 guys are arguing loudly and I tell them to knock it off. They ask me to settle their argument for them. This on kid, let's call him Greg, says, Mr. Canoehead, if some guy puts a gun to your head and tells you to give him a job of the blow, you'd have to do it, right? Greg, I say. That's not a conversation to have during class. The whole class is listening intently now. Well, says Greg, if someone put a gun to my head and told me to give him a job of the blow, I'd do it. Well Greg, I said. I'll remember that the next time I have a gun. The class erupts in laughter. Somehow I don't get fired. What was the most pathetic attention-seeking behavior you've ever witnessed? My mom has custody of my sister's daughters because my sister abandoned them. My sister doesn't ask about them, doesn't try to visit them, doesn't call them. Surprisingly my mom got a call from my sister on the oldest daughter's 5th birthday. Unfortunately, it wasn't to wish happy birthday. It was to announce she had stage 4 duodenum cancer, which was upsetting, obviously. Only my sister didn't act sick. She acted excited about all the concern. She never went to the doctors, and people started to catch on. About a year later, after people started calling her out on her inconsistencies, she put on her Facebook that she had been feeling sick all week. She puked twice that morning and went to the hospital, and the doctor declared her cancer to be gone. She puked up her cancer. Of course some dumbasses commented on her status congratulating her for being cancer-free. My comment was deleted though. Something to the effect of, really? You fucking puked up cancer? Why the hell would you take attention away from your daughter's b-day with this shit? What has someone done to you to make you never trust them again? My mom really fucked with my undying trust I had in her as a child. She would tell us we were going to Disney World, all up to the point of having us pack, just for dad to come home and say we barely have money for food, we're not ever going to Disney. But the mega big papa trust fuck was when I got in a car accident at about 12 to 13 years old. I wasn't hurt terribly bad but my mom made a huge claim to get a bunch of money. I had to go to physical therapy and fake injuries, and she took the $2,500 and went on a vacation, without me. Told me she was unalivement. I talked her through it, cried with her, got a nearby friend to call the police to go help her etc. etc. Maybe after 15 minutes of this she seems to be better and says, I'm glad I can trust you to be there if I ever actually think of unalivement. It was a test. She was very confused as to why I refused to talk to her ever again. My ex-boyfriend sent nudies of me around my high school and everyone called me a slut from then on even though I had only ever slept with him. It was tough. Don't send nudies kids.